Okay, so welcome to the Liberal Arts and Natural Sciences talk. If anybody here is expecting a different subject talk, this is a good moment to make your escape. But if you're all here for Liberal Arts and Natural Sciences, it's a really great pleasure to welcome you to Birmingham, to our campus, and to the programme. And it's exciting for myself and for Ella Barnett, one of our final year students who I'm joined with today, to have a chance to see who I might be seeing next September as our next cohort of first years, and who you might be talking to Ella as one of our graduates next year, hopefully. So we tried to keep a very close relationship with our students, current and future graduates. So it's a lovely sense of community that we're welcoming you to, as well as a fantastic campus and an amazing city. We're very much a programme that is driven by curiosity. And that's why we're situated as we are in the University of Birmingham. We're a university that does pretty much every subject to an extraordinarily high level. We have people making groundbreaking discoveries in almost every subject area you can imagine on a daily, weekly, annual basis. And as a Liberal Arts and Natural Sciences student, your curiosity can take you anywhere across the 5 colleges. So it's a remarkable opportunity to engage with the best teaching and learning, but also the most exciting research that's going on in the UK and indeed globally today. We have a marvellous campus. I hope now that we're getting towards the afternoon and the sun is dipping a little bit, that you've had a chance to explore and to see some of the sights of our campus, which is a green and pleasant and relaxing space. But that kind of sense of relaxation is a little bit beguiling because, of course, we're very close to Birmingham, the UK's second city, an incredibly diverse city in terms of culture, demographics. We have a very young demographic in Birmingham, and we have a lot of music, sport, art, theatre, and comedy that you can dip your toes, dip your fingers in and out of as a student with us. And here in the campus, we're based ideally for exploring the city. We're a little bit separate, but you can very easily walk or cycle in along the towpath, or indeed take the train or the bus. So you have the best of the University of Birmingham as a Liberal Arts and Natural Sciences student, and as a Birmingham student, you have the very best of what I think is the UK's most exciting, most dynamic city. So I very much hope that you will see this as an opportunity to indulge your curiosity over 4 years. Because this is a programme for curious students who are keen to explore a range of subjects at degree level. We believe that you are all talented, you're all people who have ideas, who have questions, who want to solve problems. And that's how this programme has been framed. It's framed for students who are keen to design a programme of study that nobody in the world perhaps has ever done before. Because the unique portfolio of modules that you select for yourself in combination with your academic advisor will mean that you have a program of study at graduation that is entirely derived from your needs, your aspirations, your goals as you move on into postgraduate life and careers. Some of our students are very focused on the sciences. Some students are much more interested in the humanities broadly writ or the social sciences. Many of our students range across all of those 3 broad domains. Some of our students focus on just 1 or 2 of those domains. The flexibility of the programme means that all of those different possibilities are available for you. And that's exemplified, I think, here in the kind of the simplicity, in a way, at point of entry. All you have to decide is that you want to enrol as a Liberal Arts and Sciences student. But when you start to think about that trajectory, you start to see over the course of your 4 years that you can move towards very different exit qualifications. If your studies are primarily in the humanities and social sciences, you'll probably graduate with a BA in Liberal Arts and Sciences. But you might choose to have a major. It might be philosophy, it might be drama, it might be sociology. Or if you're a Liberal Arts and Sciences student, but your interests are more in the scientific vein, perhaps you will end up graduating with a BSc in Liberal Arts and Sciences, but maybe with a major in chemistry. If your interests are primarily sciences, and you study 75% of your modules in the sciences, then you can choose to graduate with a BSc in natural sciences. But in that portfolio, you might still have classes that you've taken in history of art, in philosophy, in drama, in politics, in business. So the programme closes down no options, it closes no doors, but it allows those doors to remain open as long as they work for your exciting pathway to a world after university. And that's the really exciting question that we work with you on over the course of the 4 years. Who do you see yourself being in 4 years' time, in 7 years' time, in 10 years' time? And I think that relationship that you develop with your academic advisors, but also with your peers and the subject experts across the university, is a kind of a new network that will stand you in very good stead. And we certainly see our graduate students coming back to us with questions, with requests for support, but also with offers to help our current students, because they can see how valuable that iterative dialogue between people at different stages in their learning journey really is. There is also, as part of this 4-year program, the option to graduate with a master's, an integrated undergraduate master's, MArt or MSci, in liberal arts and sciences or natural sciences. There is less flexibility if you choose that track, inevitably, but it does mean that you end up studying master's level subjects in your final year. So for students who are doing exceptionally well academically all the way through, and who have quite a clear sense of what their portfolio needs to look like to get them to the career they aspire to, then that is an option that some of our students take. But the door isn't closed on that option at any point until your 3rd year. So again, flexibility is important. So summing up some of those things, flexibility, that's a bit of a watchword for today's talk and for our program. We do give you the opportunity to develop expertise. That might be in a traditional subject area major, chemistry, physics, maths, politics, economics, law, history, English. Or it might be in a kind of a new emerging thematic area of interest, which you might yourself be defining and designing, and that's something that becomes part of the narrative that you will bring with you when you leave us. We also suggest to you that you try to think about the way in which that evolving journey through a major area or a thematic area changes as you move through the degree program. And that iterative process, going back to the conversations that you have with your advisor, is part of what makes your ownership of the degree at the very end of your 4 years so powerful. You are the expert in your program of study, and you have the capability and the enthusiasm to deliver something really meaningful, whether it's to a graduate program, a graduate employer, or to one of the new kinds of industry or career that perhaps we don't even know what they are yet. Interdisciplinary practice is very much at the heart of this. So as you can tell from what I've said about the advisory process, we don't simply say, here are the hundreds of modules that Birmingham offers, take your pick. We ask you to think very carefully at every point about what that particular combination in any given semester or any year of study actually means for your progress. And that's where our interdisciplinary core modules come into the picture, and I'll talk about them a little bit in a moment. In your 3rd year, you're asked to reflect in a wider context on your program of study, and that might be through a year abroad studying, it might be through our year in civic leadership, or potentially through our year in computer science, if that's an angle that you realize at that point is needed for your development. We're a very dynamic group. We comprise academics and students who range across the university. So in the core academic team in liberal arts and natural sciences, we have some people who are based wholly in our program. So those people such as myself and colleagues who have academic expertise but are absolutely dedicated to your studies. But we also have shared appointments that we've made with each of the 5 colleges. So there is always somebody with expertise in one of those college thematic areas within the liberal arts and natural sciences team that you can go to for advice. And that process of advice, whether it's on academic or more general development goals, is really circled always around our physical space on campus, our hub in the European Research Institute building. And that's where all of our academic staff officers are, but also our professional services administrative team, and of course our student social learning hub, which is a fantastic sort of multi-purpose space where we sometimes have group meetings, we run our weekly tea and biscuits, we have social events such as lunches, but we also encourage students to use it in a kind of a flexible way, whether it's for small group projects or silent independent study. Now just to give some meaning, I suppose, to some of the things I've been saying about majors, you can see here, I'm not going to read out a very long list, but you can see examples of majors that students have had through liberal arts and natural sciences across the university in recent years. I would draw your attention in particular to the 2 at the bottom right, gender studies and sustainability. When I mentioned that you as students could create your own brand new academic areas of expertise and qualification that are not currently available as undergraduate programs at Birmingham. This is a great example. So we had students who were particularly interested in questions around gender identity. We have designed a gender studies major so that they can graduate with that on their degree certificate. Similarly, sustainability, it's a word that cuts across almost every discipline at the moment, and we've had some very successful graduates through with a sustainability major moving into areas in advice and consultancy, but also on the kind of harder tech side of sustainability development with organisations such as recently, for instance, Scottish Power. So you can see there that you both have the opportunity to do something that looks a bit more traditional, but also the opportunity to create something that gives you a really different gloss as a graduate when you move into the marketplace and the wider world. And the flexibility that we offer in this programme, we do genuinely believe is unique in the UK sector of liberal arts programmes. For a start, it does include the sciences, and the door is never closed to doing work, even methodologically in the sciences, even if you are not taking science subjects for somebody coming from the humanities, and vice versa. Natural sciences students, science-focused students, have that option to range into other domains. Most of our first years do choose a major when they come to us, but that's more as a kind of a framing narrative for the first year than a commitment. You can certainly change after your first year. You decide that major wasn't at all what you expected, or you've discovered a new passion in some of the elective subjects, the things that you're using to explore and to develop breadth. And in fact, the major can evolve over the course of at least your first 2 years and sometimes into your third year when you're studying abroad. Over years 2 and 3, the 240 credit equivalents that makes up 2 years of Birmingham University study, only the best 120 credits of that 240 credits of grades factors into your classified bachelor's degree. So it means that you have that scope to explore, you have the scope to restart and reinvent yourself in your second year if you've decided at the end of year 1 that there were other options that you hadn't thought to explore or hadn't felt the confidence to explore at that point. But it also means that if you're a student who perhaps is more secure in the track that you're on by the time you get to the end of your second year, you can choose to diversify either in terms of absolute breadth or in terms of the kinds of areas of study in your major that are on offer in our host partner institutions abroad that perhaps are not possible in Birmingham. And an example from one of my tutees a while ago was she was very interested in life sciences, but in Birmingham we don't have a marine ecology programme. We're a long way from the sea here. It's not one of our areas of research expertise. But she went to Australia, to Melbourne, and in fact they have a fantastic marine ecology programme, and she really transformed her major through that diversification into marine ecosystems in her third year. There is also, as I mentioned, the opportunity, if your grades are looking really good, to opt into the master's route in your fourth year, where you take master's level studies rather than simple higher level studies as you would with the bachelor's programme. And of course, finally, as I say, the natural sciences route, for those of you who are passionate, committed scientists, taking 3/4 or more of your subjects across the sciences, then the natural sciences degree is definitely one to consider. And we are, in fact, accredited with the British Society for Natural Sciences, so you have a real kind of guarantee of the quality of both of the depth and the breadth of your studies when you take that degree option. So I mentioned breadth a moment ago, and this is really a slide devoted to thinking about how that weaves in and out of the curriculum. You can see in years 1 and 2 that we have our core compulsory modules. This is where you get the academic skills to understand what the multi and then interdisciplinary pathways that you're designing for yourselves really look like in practice, because you situate your own studies against the studies of your peers, all taking very different routes through the programme, but also you're gaining advice from the academic team who are leading your group work and your individual studies in years 1 and 2 in these core modules. Year 1 is focused very much on the civic agenda. I mentioned how proud I am, but also we are as a university, of our place in the city of Birmingham and the support that we feel we get from Birmingham, but also that we like to give back. So our first year students think about the way in which the different disciplines that they are all studying might usefully be brought to bear on a global problem with a local manifestation. And in the first semester, they work towards writing a report, which could potentially even have value to one of our partners or stakeholders in the city. And in semester 2, they work on understanding the kinds of persuasive rhetorical skills that might enable them to write a policy paper that could actually make change happen, whether at government, national or local level. So semester 1 has a lot of group work activities because students are learning in multidisciplinary small groups in order to see what difference it makes when you do put all of those disciplines together, and what actually is greater than the sum of its parts about putting together a team that looks like that. Year 2 focuses more on interdisciplinarity, a much more complex skill, and it challenges students to upgrade their skills in dealing with understanding knowledge in different domains, but also in domains that have very different methods and skills associated with them. And it's in interdisciplinarity that the real kind of power of the degree, I think, starts to become apparent. Our second years undergoing those modules don't always see it quite as clearly as we hope they will, and we are doing the teaching. But what we find is that by the final year, and certainly at the point of graduation, students are kind of referring back to that second year core as something that has transformed their ability to make something compelling of their LANS narrative. In the final year, then, you take an independent research project option. That might be an interdisciplinary project through LANS, or it might be a subject-specific project in one of our amazing departments. And you also have the option of doing our entrepreneurial modules, which are designed and run by LANS. One of our academic team members actually has experience in startup work in nanomaterials, so he's the project lead, but we also work closely with our careers network and of course with local stakeholders and indeed global partnerships. So it's an increasingly popular option in the final year. So the third year is very much about drawing together your skills developed and the ideas and questions that have been emerging over your first 2 years. And there are different ways in which you can manifest solutions or kind of development opportunities through year 3 to address those ideas and things that are bubbling through in your story. It might be that you take our standard route, which is the year abroad, traveling to one of our 200+ institutional partners to undertake a year of assessed study, global partnerships all over the world, amazing chances to understand how learning looks different in different contexts, to gain intercultural fluency, to understand how subjects reverberate differently in different historical and political situations. You might choose to take our new year in civic leadership, and that option keeps you here in Birmingham. You have some taught classes associated with it, but primarily you are operating as consultants on projects that are linked to local or sort of West Midlands regional partner organisations. We have, I think, 30 or 40 different partners at the moment, and there's a huge range of different projects that they propose to us or that they work on in collaboration with us and that then students are matched to. Or if you feel that you've perhaps been on a track that seems to be leading you in a direction that might require computer studies skills in the future, and you are not a computer science major, then you might opt into the year in computer science. So that's not a part of the computer science degree. It's a dedicated year out designed specifically for non-computer science students. So you can see that those are 3 different ways, educational at the heart for all of them, but with different kinds of skills and attributes developed depending on the route that you take. And I hope that some of this presentation so far has made clear to you the sense of possibility, the sense of open-mindedness, the sense of diverse agenda, I guess, and diverse ways of understanding knowledge that the programme prioritises. So we very much want to keep options open for students as long as possible and to make the expertise of Birmingham available to as many students at each stage in their study as is feasible with the number of hours we have in the week. And some of this, as I said, is about our sense of ourselves as a research-led amazing university. Some of it is about how we situate ourselves within the fantastic community that is Birmingham. And some of it is about the kinds of networks that you are developing with staff, with fellow students, and with students in other years or from our graduate community. There are a lot of different networks to plug into. Now, to try to frame all of this in a meaningful way and to ensure that those sort of community-forming aspirations have something that is really experienced by you on a daily or weekly basis. We have various things going on, a lot of things all the time. We have our cultural program, homing in on that, because that's a very popular, fun way of thinking about learning in very different contexts outside the classroom. Going to events or experiences that you might never have tried before, whether because they were very expensive or very off-putting or didn't seem open to somebody with your particular sort of set of interests. These are all things that we put out there for you, whether it's the theatre, the opera, the ballet, football, netball, cultural events with museums, life drawing classes, poetry writing workshops, distinguished lecture events. Something pretty much every week, I would say, and all of it free to you at the point that you access it. For our first years in particular, we take you to the university's Lake District Institute, the Raymond Priestley Centre at Lake Coniston. So that's a kind of a cornerstone event for first years. That's 3 or 4 days in the Lake District working on team building activities, but also gaining perhaps a greater sense of self-knowledge at the end of the first year. And it's a very good moment as well to start to reflect on whether the portfolio that you currently have is the right one for you, and to return really ready to talk to your personal tutor about what your second year should look like in the context of stepping back, but also learning in the outdoor context. We have a summer school. We run for academic credit, different topics every year. We also have summer research studentships, again, connecting you with academic researchers in the university, different topics every year. So there's always something that you can be doing, and I think most of our students would say the problem really is that there is so much choice that they could be doing something every single hour of the day, and obviously we don't want to wear you all out. So we don't say that you should do everything, but we really do like students to participate and to feel they're getting the most value. So I'm just drawing my part to a close by giving you a flavour of some of the graduate stories of students from our first and second cohorts. So as you can see there, quite different major areas of study, but also quite different trajectories away from lands into employment. And I think that kind of lived experience of what do the things that I have said actually mean to a student is something that hopefully Ella is going to be able to talk to you a little bit more about now. So I'll hand over Ella.
Hi everyone, I'm Ella. I am in my final year of Liberal Arts and Natural Sciences, and this is a very sort of full circle moment for me, because 4 very long years ago I was sat where you guys are, and I was maybe the most nervous I have ever been, because I was watching this talk and I knew that this was it for me. There were no other options. This was the only thing that I wanted to do. I couldn't even bear to think about what it would be like if I did one straight subject at uni and how bored I would be. And my poor mother, who had gone through, I did quite straight-laced A-levels. I did biology, chemistry, geography. There's nothing particularly adventurous about that combination, but my school thought that it was the medicine combination, and my dad's a doctor, and I very much refused to go down the medicine pathway. And my poor mum came to this talk with me and turned to me halfway through and went, "Oh my goodness, they're describing you." And we had a very emotional family moment. Anyway, here we are, 4 years later. It clearly went fairly well for me. I'm still around. Over the 4 years, I've done a huge range of different subjects. As you can see, my major is geography, so this is my main area of subject specialism. But I have lots of other pathways through. There's a strong link of criminology. There's a couple of philosophy in there. As you can see, my third year, that was my year abroad, has quite a lot of breadth to it, but I'll get to that in a second. But I have really managed to hone what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy. I did biology in first year and it wasn't for me, and I figured that actually maybe psychology, which is something that I've never delved into before, was more my interest, and now my dissertation is partially sort of bridging psychology with a few of my other modules. A LANS timetable is a question that we get a lot because it is very confusing. This is my timetable this term. I'm doing 3 subjects alongside each other, one of which is my dissertation, one of which is a criminology module, and one of which is a geography module. But the contact hours are quite low this term because I'm mostly focusing on the arts this term. That was by coincidence, not by choice. Next term, I've got a slightly more scientific focus, so I'm doing 2 geography modules alongside each other. They're both physical, environmental geography, so they involve quite a lot of labs. This is just 1 week, it changes every week. But so your contact hours will vary hugely depending on what sort of subjects you do and what combinations of subjects that you do. The lands department worked very hard to make sure that we don't have any clashes in our timetable, which is invaluable work. So I've got quite lucky this term that I've ended up with quite a nice timetable. My dissertation was something that I absolutely would not think that I was doing in first year. The idea of writing 10,000 words made me feel a little bit sick. And especially starting with, in theory, a major in chemistry that I dropped within 2 days, meant that doing a dissertation in theatre and criminology was not where I thought my degree was going to end up. So this is a vague proposed research title about therapeutic theatrical practices in prisons and rehabilitation. I don't know if it's going to end up in exactly that title, but this is generally my area of research, and this came about completely of its own accord. I've worked in theatre quite a lot before. It's a big interest of mine. I've worked with people with disabilities in theatre, and so it's always been an area of interest for me. And then studying criminology and studying specifically public opinions of prisoners and the right of creative arts to prisoners became a really big interest of mine in second and third year, and now has become my area of research, and hopefully will be what I continue to do as a master's once I've graduated this year. That's the plan, anyway. We'll see. Supervision, we get 2 supervisors. So I have a lands supervisor and a subject-specific supervisor. I've got a criminology supervisor, and my lands supervisor specifically is within the arts. So she's usually around your subject area, but not necessarily, but they are incredibly useful in making sure that you're bridging those subjects and bringing them together as opposed to writing 2 separate dissertations on one subject. So I had quite a lot of expectations coming to uni, quite a lot of wrong expectations, but ones which I've also been right about, but in ways that I wasn't expecting. So I did expect uni to be academically challenging. I was right, especially being in lands. You're bridging different subjects that you maybe haven't combined before, and it can be overwhelming occasionally, but that's where our tutors come in and are amazing and so supportive in so many ways. And the tea and biscuits, even as an informal meeting, is a chance to sort of go up to your tutor and go, help me, which is incredibly valuable. I really thought I'd be in lectures 9 to 5 every day and that would be how it worked. It's not, which is shocking, was to me anyway. They very much vary. I have some days where it's labs 9 till 2 and that's it, and I have some days where I only have an hour. The rest of the time is your own, but you do tend to spend quite a lot of it doing outside work. I was really concerned I was going to be overwhelmed by the options, and it was too flexible, so I would just stick in my own lane. And as you can see by my credit split a few slides ago, I really didn't do that. In my first year, I mainly stayed within the subjects that I'd studied at A-level, or at least at GCSE. And then in my third year, and now my dissertation is in theatre, and I didn't even do drama GCSE. So coming back round to that sort of subject is really important for me anyway, in my process. I thought my dissertation would be in geography. Geography was kind of my thing. It's not. Who knows? Who knows? I'm still doing a lot of geography, obviously, but it's very exciting to me that I get that breadth and that chance to delve into something that I think is important research. I thought the societies were going to be a lot like school clubs, a couple of hours after school. Maybe they wouldn't be that big. A society is the same amount of commitment for me, at least, because I've really jumped into it as my degree has been. I do a lot of performance and a lot of theatre things, so that's sort of where the commitment comes from. But also it's hugely a part of your social life, and like karaoke nights or like quiz nights become such a huge thing, and it's so much time is spent with these people and you become really, really close with them. friends for life, 100%. I lived in second year with 9 other LAN students, and we lived in a house where we were locked in for the entire year. So they're never getting rid of me. And overwhelmed by adulthood, 100%. The fact that I have to do my own laundry, terrifying. I have to cook my own dinner every day, I hate it. I don't, it's fine. It is overwhelming at times, and sometimes the last thing you want to do is put a washing pod in the washing machine. It's too much, but you really go home for a week, you know, then they take care of you. But also you do adjust to it, and it does become surprisingly easy to cope with and is great fun. My year abroad, I had a fantastic year abroad. I went to Canada. I was in southern Ontario in a little town called London, which was funny about twice. And we did a whole lot of traveling. I lived with a golden retriever for a year, which was very, very cool. And we managed to get a group of 5 of us, 5 girls from unis all over the UK who were all in the same position of knowing absolutely no one and not knowing where the bus went or how to get on it or anything. And we all managed to do a 3-week-long road trip around the west coast of Canada by the end of the year. Our flights were $80. And we went with a backpack and nothing else, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had, and I mean ridiculously, ridiculously beautiful. Outside of my studies, I mentioned earlier, performance is kind of my thing. So we have an a cappella society at the uni, which has 6 a cappella groups, which is quite good fun. I'm now in charge of my own a cappella group, which is amazing, and we do gigs at weddings and gigs at charity events in Birmingham, as well as gigs in pubs in Selly Oak. I'm also heavily involved with Panto Society. So we put on 3 pantomimes a year. I was in Scooby-Doo, the pantomime, last year. It worked better than you'd think. And this year I've written and I'm directing my own pantomime this term. So the opportunities that you get to be like so involved in these are amazing, truly. And in terms of being a student in Birmingham, it was my only hesitation about this course was its location, because the only time I'd ever seen Birmingham in the news was like negative things. And coming from London, I didn't know if I wanted to go to another like intense metropolitan city, but as it turns out, it's one of my favorite places in the world. And like Diana said, the culture here is incredible, and it's so student focused. There is something like 4 or 5 universities in Birmingham in itself, as well as the Uni of Birmingham. And it's student bars and student culture and student theatre and student art and student music and student jazz nights, and all of the above are so much fun to get involved in. And we did a Tough Mudder, the Midlands Tough Mudder a few weeks ago with some of my friends, raising money for Birmingham Nightline, which was an incredibly important cause to us. I watched one of my best friends complete the Birmingham half marathon. I've watched some of my amazing friends graduate. Birmingham's great, and it truly is a very, very student-friendly city. And I've loved every second of it. That's all I have for you today. We do have an opportunity for you guys to ask us questions, but we are... But not here, yeah. But we are going to head over to the drop-in marquee that we have just by Old Joe. You're welcome to walk and talk with us as we head back there. If you have any questions, please feel free to come and find us. Thank you.